Very good morning to all my dear students. I hope you all are safe and fine. I welcome you all for this digital classroom session. Let's begin with ninth standard water security subject. In today's video, we will be understanding chapter number 4, Watershed Recharge. Before moving towards the chapter, let's understand the last chapter which we have done in the last session, that is related to catchment watershed treatment. I hope you all have watched the video and you all must have understood what is catchment watershed treatment. So let's revise it once again, chapter number 3, and afterwards we will move towards chapter number 4. So first let's understand the concept of watershed treatment or catchment. Here in this particular chapter, you all must have understood the area from which water naturally flows through a particular place is called as a catchment or watershed area of stream. At the same time, my dear students, you all have understood the types of catchment treatment that is shown in the video. Now let's move to the watershed recharge. Here in this particular chapter, we will be understanding groundwater recharge, filtration system, rainwater recharge, Department of Engineering, Geology and Groundwater. Here, how the watershed recharge or the various process occur. So it is very important when this rainwater, when this rainwater falls, that time the groundwater absorb the water. So there are the various process to recharge it. Let's understand what is groundwater recharge. Groundwater recharge is the process of infiltrating rainwater into the soil in various ways to increase groundwater storage. So it is a process where the rainwater saves and it increase the groundwater storage, and it requires different stages or the process to fill this recharge, to fill this water. Groundwater need to be recharged using scientific method of infiltrating rainwater such as digging ditches, absorption pits, etc. Proper precaution to be taken to keep groundwater free from any types of contamination. So it is not easy process. It takes time. It takes scientific methods to keep the groundwater free from contamination. At the same time, let's move to the second part of chapter number 4, watershed recharge, that is filtration system. Here we will be understanding filtration of rain is highly essential before groundwater recharge. So filtration system should be there. So it requires various processes are there like suction pit, sand filter, cold filter, filter in pipes, etc. are the various filtration system used for filtering rainwater. So hope you all will watch the video and try to understand the concept of watershed recharge. So let's watch the video.
Now, groundwater recharge is the process of infiltrating the rainwater into the soil into various ways which will help to increase the groundwater storage. Now, water recharge can be done in different ways. So, storing rainwater for a certain period of time is one of the main way to recharge the groundwater. Now, let's see the next topic, that is groundwater. Now, what is groundwater? It is a water which is stored under the ground, that is under the land. Now, the rainwater seeps into the soil. So, as it seeps into the soil, the upper layer of the soil becomes saturated. Okay, why it becomes saturated? Because more water continues to flow in the lower layer of the soil. Now, this water is absorbed through the loam in the soil and the cracks in the rocks. The rate at which water seeps into the soil depends on the geological condition of that particular place. Conversely, if the slope of the land is low and slow, the rate of waterlogging will be high. The second factor is the porosity of the rocks. The porous soil, then jointed rocks, fractured rocks, then fused porous rocks and rocks with cavities are more prone to waterlogging. Naturally, more groundwater reserves are found. This groundwater is used for drinking as well as for agriculture. Next, the need of groundwater recharge. We are surrounded by borewells and wells without water. The main reason for this is the lowered water level in the soil. This requires a collective effort to recharge the water. Where water is not available through the river, the canals, the where borewells are used. Now, agricultural water is also obtained through borewells. Currently, the water level of this spring is about 400 to 500 feet deep. Now, as the groundwater level is declining, it is becoming less day by day. Wells and borewells have to be there. It is a necessity to get them recharged. Now, groundwater is not been recharged in the proportion it was being pumped out. So, the groundwater level is getting deeper day by day. In order to increase the groundwater level, it is necessary to try to infiltrate rainwater wherever possible. At the same time, it is also necessary to use the available groundwaters very sparingly and scientifically. Groundwater reserves are getting depleted due to various reasons. As a result, they need to be recharged. Now, many efforts are also being made to infiltrate rainwater by digging ditches, absorption pits in different places in the soil and at different distances in different layers of the soil. Various attempts are also being made to restore groundwater levels by storing as much groundwater as possible. At present, due to depletion of open space and soil in urban areas and significant increase in the amount of concrete areas, the natural recharge of the groundwater level is also very low, and hence we have to face the loss. For this, we need to study the scientific method of how to absorb the maximum amount of rainwater in the ground and what various measures should be taken to recharge the groundwater. So now let's see what care is to be taken while recharging the groundwater. Appropriate care should be taken when recharging groundwater or using groundwater. When infiltrating water in any place, it is important to filter the rainwater through a proper filtration system. Rainwater may be acidic sometimes, or the roof surface may be unclean. Therefore, after the onset of the rains, the first one or the two rainwater recharges should be avoided. We can purify the polluted water on the ground, but if the groundwater source is contaminated, it is impossible to purify them. Infiltration of water is in the ground alone is not enough. When borewells are drilled, every borewell must be refilled. Due to the structure of the groundwater you have, if you do not refill, it can dry out suddenly at any time. So, it is necessary to refill the groundwater in order to avoid the dryness. Recharging groundwater and sources not only increases their water holding capacity, but it also add a benefit for the urban areas. If the rainwater is diverted to groundwater or sources, there will never be waterlogging or flooding in the area. In short, to say, the most important and necessary thing is to try to get water throughout the year. Efforts must be made in the rainy season. The most important and necessary thing to do is to take measures according to the location so that the available water can be used after the end of rainy season by properly reciprocating the available water. So doing so will create a year-round source of water and groundwater. Next, groundwater recharge and rain. Now, before you adopt any methods to groundwater recharge, you need to know the amount of rainfall in that particular area. The amount of water that can accumulate in the area can be calculated based on the amount of rainfall. So now let's see the mathematics behind the rainwater. Now here we have taken an example. Suppose the area of the premises is 500 square meter and the area of the roof of that particular building is suppose say 100 square meters. So the total annual rainfall is given as 2.2 meters. So you have to find what is the total amount of water. So the total amount of water is calculated by multiplying the area of the surrounding to the total rainfall. So that means now the total amount of water, okay, is calculated by the area of the surrounding. Now what is the area given to us? It is given to us as 500 square meters. Okay, so the area of that premises is 500 square meters. So we have to find the total rainfall for that 500 square meters. So which is equals to 500 multiplied by 2.2. So that will give you 1100 cubic meters. So you can see that is 11 lakhs liters. Now again, if you assume we take only 60% of the water, okay, we assume that we only use 60% of the water. So water content is equals to 11 lakhs multiplied by 0.6. Why 0.6? Because it is 60%. So 60 upon 100. 60 upon 100 means 0.6. So 11 lakhs into 0.6 will give you 6,60,000 liters. Okay. Now water on the roof of the building is calculated, that is 100 multiplied by 2.2. So why 100? Because the area is 100. So 100 multiplied by the total rainfall, which is 2.2, will give you 220 cubic meters, which is equal to 2,20,000 liter. So generally one person needs 10 liters of water every day. So if you think about the above mathematics, the water will be enough for 50% for about 50 people to drink only for a year. So the amount of rainfall varies according to the geographical conditions and the amount of water in each place will change accordingly. Now let's see the filtration system required for filtration of rainwater. Now, an important part of the rainwater filtration system is a suction pit. Now, you can see the figure of the suction pit. It is also called as absorption pit. Okay. For recharge of water in sources like well or borewell, the suction pit acts as a filter. Now, if you want to recharge the source with your roof water, there are different filtration systems. First is the suction pit design. Okay, now let's see how it is being used. To absorb the water, in a pit is dug at that place in which the water is to be recharged. The size of the suction pit is decided on the basis of component, that is whether it is a well, borewell or roof water. Okay, so the size is dependent upon that component to get to be recharged. The proportion of elements in the suction pit, that is the stone, sand, is also taken according to the size of the pit. At the bottom is a pipe of 3 or 4 inches in diameter. You can see, okay, carrying the filtered water. The filtered water from this pipe goes to the wells, then it goes to the bore wells and underground. The pit is divided into 3 or 4 sections with large stones at the bottoms. You can see there are stones at the bottoms, right? The small stones of the same type are thrown. Above this layer, a thick sand, and at the top is a very fine layer of the sand. So the 15% is the thick sand and 25% is the fine little sand. Rainwater or the water from the source is released on this fine sand layer. Then this water is filtered through these 3 to 4 layers. Then this water accumulates in soil wells and bore wells. Next, different types of filtration devices. Now we cannot use rainwater directly from the roof. Okay, why? It is contaminated, because that's the reason. If it has to be filtered, then what we have to do? We have to prepare a filter. So when preparing the filter, it should be according to the size and proportion of the components. Okay, then also the amount of water, how much water you need to be recharged. So according to the components in the filtration system, the following types are found. First is the sand filter. Now we can see the figure of the sand filter. Now in sand filter, a container of suitable size has layers of fine sand and gravel on top of each. Now on one side there is a layer of porous material, then on the top of that there is a layer of medium sized gravel. Then there is a layer of fine sand. The topmost layer is of gravel. The water to be recharged is released from this layer, and then the water is filtered out of the porous layer. So you can see in the figure. Okay. The next, second is the coal filter. Now this is again similar in structure to the sand filter, but on the top there is a layer of fine coal. So that is why it is named as coal filter. Okay. Then after that, the recharge water is released from the top layer. The water is filtered and can be taken from the bottom layer for use. Then next is the filter in pipes. The filter in pipes is made in a plastic pipe. Okay. The pipe is approximately 140 millimeter in diameter and 1.2 meter in length. There are 3 layers of fine to large gravel. The first layer is made up of gravel, which is of size 206 millimeters. The second layer is made of gravel of size 6 to 12 millimeter thickness, and the third layer is made of size 12 to 20 millimeter thickness. Now the water to be recharged is released from the side with the fine gravel, and the filtered water recharges the water source as it flows out from the other side. The wells are recharged with this filter. This filter was been constructed by Rural Engineering Services Devas, which was in Madhya Pradesh. Okay. Next, roof rainwater recharge. Rainwater is first considered through both reuse and recharge. Rainwater harvesting is the process of recharging with rainwater. There are different types. In the first type, the rainwater is stored in a tank and is used for drinking and other purpose. The second one is the rainwater is infiltrated in the soil through the suction pit. Now such water becomes the part of groundwater. So the first one is storing rainwater in the tank. For the purpose of saving water and in places where drinking water is not available, rainwater falling on the roof can be stored in a closed tank for drinking and other purposes. After cleaning the roof with a couple of showers, the rainwater should be collected through a pipe, okay, and then it should be filtered and stored in the tank. A special type of filter is used for this. Water should not be used without filtering or through the filter. Now, to filter this rainwater, a recommended amount of liquid chlorine or tablets are used for drinking water. Then next is the recharge of soil with rainwater. Raising groundwater level is a need of the hour. For this, recharge of rainwater is important. Now rainwater is collected from the roof and then it is allowed to pass through a mesh, okay, leaving mulch or other elements trapped in it. So this filtered water is discharged into the suction pit. Then next, recharge of borewell with rainwater. This type of refill is used for dry borewell in farms, villages or in the vicinity of large housing societies. So now in order to recharge the borewell in a field, the water of the runnel or the stream is diverted as a source. Then the roof water is diverted to a suction pit to recharge the household or village borewell. A pit 2 meters wide and 2 meters deep is dug around the borewell, or a pit of suitable size is also been dug around the borewell. In the area of the casing pipe of borewell, the holes of specific diameters are drilled at a distance of 1 to 2 centimeters on both the sides. Then coconut strings, which is also called as kata, are wrapped tightly, or a plastic mesh is placed on this hole as a filter. So they act as a filter. Now the pit is divided into 4 sections, okay, filled with rocks at the bottom, then the gravel above that, then the coarse sand and fine sand at the top. So like this, there are 4 levels, or there are 4 sections. The water from the source is released at the top. You can see in the figure, okay, the water is released from the top. Then the water goes down through the filtration process and then becomes a part of the underground water. Next, recharge of wells with rainwater. Now here, 2 separate pits of 3 meters and 2 meters length are dug between the well and the stream. Now the first pit is dug 3 meters long and 3 meters wide and 1 meter deep. The second pit is dug at a distance of around 3 meters from the first pit. So that the distance is around 3 meters from each other. The second pit is dug 2 meters long, 1.5 meters wide and 2 meters deep. Now there is a horizontal hole in the center of the first pit, okay, and this pit is connected to the second pit by a 6-inch PVC pipe, okay. Now the first pit is filled with stones. The bottom of the second pit is filled with 0.45 meter thick layer of gravel. A 0.45 thick meter of sand is applied on that layer. Then it is filled with 0.45 meter thick layer of fine sand and 0.15 meter thick layer of coal is spread on it. The pit is connected to the well by a 4-inch PVC pipe from the bottom. The waste, the mulch, etc. from the river water will be settled in the first pit, and the water without particles will go through the pipe to the second pit. Then the clean water filtered from the second pit will go through the well pipe and recharge the well. So this is a process for recharging of well with the rainwater. The next, precautions to be taken while filling well and borewell. The first is, now the water which is coming from the stream should be free of salt and other chemicals. Then water should be piped to the bottom of the well. Third one, there should be 2 filter pits before refilling. Fourth, whatever dirt or impurities are there, it should be removed from the well before refilling the well. Then next, recharge should be done with filtered and clean water only. Now water on the area where the salt has spilled, that is there is salt on the area, okay, so the water which is there on this salty area, it should not be used to recharge the wells. Then the last one, the filter made up of sand and gravel should be cleaned once, okay, before they are used, okay, and it should be done before rainy season only. So with this we have finished the first terminal portion, okay. Now for your homework, you have to do exercise questions, okay. All the 5 questions has to be written into your notebook. Now for your first terminal, you don't have to study the question answers from the exercise, but you have to read the textbook thoroughly, because the questions will be asked from within the lesson, okay. It will be within the lesson, so you have to read the textbook thoroughly, and the paper will be a MCQ type paper. So students, I repeat again, complete your notebook, okay, up to unit 2. Okay, unit 1 and unit 2 should be completed, all the 4 chapters from unit 1 as well as 4 chapters from unit 2, that is total 8 chapters should be completed for your first terminal portion. Your notebook carries marks, so see that you complete it, but don't study the question answers which are there in the exercise. Those won't be asked, but you have to read your textbook thoroughly, because the questions will be asked to you from the lesson itself. Okay, thank you.